was working with a student the other day and I came across this problem that I thought you guys might want to see how I would do. And this is part of an ACT practice exam. You might encounter problems similar to this on the SAT as well. This says, which graph represents the inequality? And then it has got this big inequality, right? Big fraction inequality, X and Y, two variables. So let's analyze this a little bit. Rather than jumping in and trying to solve the inequality first, let's look at it. Use some critical thinking skills here. We see that the X and the Y, neither of them are being squared or cubed or under a radical, anything like that. So that tells us that this is talking about a linear inequality. Our other big clue to that is, look at the answer choices. They're all lines with one side shaded or the other. So if we look at this, we know it's going to be linear. So it might be tempting to try to put it into slope-intercept form. Y is less than or equal to mx plus b, kind of like just a regular line. But we don't really need to in this case. It's actually a little easier than that. Take a look at what we've got here. Our sign, our inequality sign, is less than or equal to. So we know that whatever our values that would fit this inequality, whatever they are, they can include the points on the line itself, which means we represent that with a solid line instead of a dotted line. So we know that it can't be A or C because those have a dotted line instead of a solid line. It has to be either B or D. Now notice the difference between B or D. On B, the shaded region is above the line. On D, the shaded region is below the line. So if we look back at our equation, again, we don't really need to solve it, but think about what you would do to solve it. So in this case, you could multiply both sides by 3, subtract 15 on both sides, and then divide both sides by 6. You're not multiplying or dividing by any negative numbers. Therefore, your sign is going to stay as less than or equal to, because in inequalities, the only thing that changes that sign is when we multiply or divide by a negative number. So our sign is going to stay less than or equal to, not greater than or equal to. And so once we do that, if we were to do that, we would be left with y is less than or equal to whatever ends up being over here, mx plus b or something, right? So that tells us that we're concerned with the y values that are below the line, less than the line, not above. So if we look at the line, notice here, if I look at any point on the line, if I look below the line, that's not the shaded region. The shaded region is above the line. So over here, the shaded region is below the line, which means D is the right answer and B is not. So a lot of times on these questions, you can use your answer choices as clues in how to get the right one. And most of the time you can rule out one or two right away instead of jumping in and trying to solve the inequality, doing extra work.